Hello, this is Mr. Slesser again from Startarsha Middle School Assistant Band Director. I'm going to be going through the very end of the non-varsity Etude number 1, okay? Oh, I'm sorry, Etude number 2. That's my mistake. We're going to be starting at measure, I believe, 17, okay? Previous one went from 9 to 16. This one is going to start at 17 and go to the end. The first thing I need you to do is make sure that you have your music up and that you are scanning through and marking these E flats and A flats that are occurring quite often, okay? I see several in measure 17. I see E flat for the first note, A flat is the fourth note, and then E flat is the last note in measure 17. Measure 18, I see 2 A flats there. Make sure we mark them. We're playing in third position. Measure 18 is very similar to, oh, this is misnumbered. I am so sorry. That is misnumbered. Hang on. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 is displayed twice, and that unfortunately is incorrect, okay? So that bottom number actually is going to be measure 20, I believe, because if that's 15, let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yep, that last number is supposed to be a measure 20 rather than a measure 19, okay? So make sure you correct that. Now back up one measure to the last measure of line 4, okay? If you look with me, once again, this we have E flats. I see an E flat as the second note, and A flat is the only quarter note that's in there, okay? Now, real measure 20, which is the accidental 19 that's written on your music there, okay? And I'm on the last line, okay? So I'm looking in that very first measure of the last line. I only see one E flat. Make sure you don't hold that that eighth note G too long, so they give you a chance to breathe and breathe correctly. Next measure is technically measure 21. Okay, it has E flats again. This is very similar to measure 5, except they turn that half note into a dotted quarter note with a G eighth note on the Te of 4. All right, measure 22. Okay, so we have an A flat on count 1, or yeah, on the first count there, that first eighth note. The dotted quarter note there goes to a high E flat. That's in third position still. All E flats are in third. Don't forget, okay? Second to last measure, I have B flat, G, E flat. Make sure you mark that with a flat. Then A flat, F, D. Make sure you mark those A flats with third. And all that's in third in the middle right there. And then the very last measure is E flat for the first note and the last note. Make sure you mark those, okay? Now, what I would really suggest you do, I'm not going to do this with the metronome just yet, is in each measure there are groupings of at least 4 eighth notes, okay? And I'm starting right in measure 17. If I were you, what I would do is I would just practice those groups of 4 eighth notes plus a note. So I'd play 17 like this. And I do that a couple times. Make sure you're also pausing, letter naming, and positioning on your own as well. So you would think Euph, F, G, A, B, G, Euph, and then you'd go 3, 1, 4, 3, 1, 4, 3. Okay, and you need to do that every time you play a measure. I'm not going to do that right now because that's going to take a ton of time. But if you heard how I practiced that just now, okay, I separated the grouping of 4 and added the next note, okay? Now, I'm out of time right now, too, because I'm purposely going slower. Look at the next measure, okay? This is measure 18. Okay, and I don't want to hold that too long, okay? And then look at the very next measure. And I'm stopping on that next note. Now, if you go back, please, to measure, this is measure 17 and 18. I'm going to put that together, a little at a time, too. And I'm really glad that I actually made that mistake because I want you to kind of see, even though I've been playing trombone 26 years, I make mistakes. Now, in that regard, when I do that, especially in my practice time, what I would do is I'd go back and do that again. So here's 17 and 18 again. Breathe, and then I go on to the next measure, okay? All right, so I did measure 19 already for you. Here's measure 20, which is the first measure of that last line. Remember, it's misnumbered, okay? All right, here we go. Ready? Very similar to what we saw in real measure 18, except it's down one note, okay? All right, ready? Starting on G. Here we... Okay, look at the next measure. Very similar to measure 17. Okay, here we go. Now, this next measure, in my opinion, is the more challenging measure just because it goes higher. Make sure you're not doing anything weird with your embouchure, your face, okay? And you're just blowing lots of fast, cold air to the bottom of your mouthpiece, okay? I'm going to start right on that A flat. And I'm also going to take this a lot slower to give you a chance to kind of practice this. This is how I practice high notes, too. And if you're not struggling with that, that's fantastic. If you are, just make sure you're playing with a big full volume and not blasting, but a big full volume, okay? And then I would do that in time as well. And that's also a really good place to have a crescendo, okay? And then what I would do is then I would add the pickup, that's that C at the end of that measure, and go to the first note, okay? So I am in measure 22 plus a note. Okay, here's measure 23. Now, since these are groups and fours, these last two measures, okay, I would just play them like that to practice, okay? I would go. Okay, pause there. Next part on the A flats. And then the last measure. And then I'd put both measures together. Okay, now I know I did a lot of jumping around and I was kind of moving through that a little faster, okay? What I just want you to recognize, number one, you need to pause this video at any time so that you can practice. That's the first thing. Number two, you need to make sure and you practice this the way that is best for you. Now, some of you may not be able to play those measures separated like that. Some of you may need to go back to 17 and do what I call the add a note game, where I just say, all right, here's the first two notes. Add a note. Add a note. Add a note. And do that for every measure. That's okay. You need to do whatever is your playing style. And yes, that may take a little bit more time, but understand the more repetition you do on these, the more accurately you're going to be able to play them, and you're going to be able to make a better sound and be more consistent with your performance rather than just kind of going through it as fast as you can and not really gaining any sort of repetition on it, okay? Now what I'm going to do, though, is I'm actually going to set my metronome to 70 like we were doing on the previous video, okay? Because I don't want to go too fast. If I go too fast, it's going to be too challenging, okay? So I want to go ahead and go 70 on this last part. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it up into twos, okay? And I'm not really going to pause for very long. I'm just going to break it up into two measures, okay? And I'm not going to add a note until towards the very end, and I'll tell you which measures I'm doing, okay? All right, my metronome is on. All right, ready? Test note on 17. This is 17 and 18. One and two and breathe. Okay, don't hold that too long and make sure you freeze your face there to breathe. Okay, here is measure 19 and 20 to the first note of the last line. Okay, this is starting on a concert D. Test note. 1, 2, and breathe. Okay, make sure you don't hold that too long. Now, the next two measures, that's going to be 21, 22, I'm going to stop on the first note of measure 23, okay? Test note on E flat. 1 and 2 and breathe. Okay, and then here are the last two measures starting on that first B flat I just stopped on, okay? Test note. 1, 2, and ready. Okay, and there we go. And that's that's the end of this practice session for you. What I would recommend you do is, since we just did 2s, now you need to go back and do 4s, and then maybe try and do 6, and then try and do all of it together, okay? I wish you the best of luck in your preparation this week.